Right now, your body is running on a technology that's over 1 million years old. You didn't choose it. You can't switch it off. And without it, feeding this brain of yours becomes almost impossible, even with a full fridge. It's not medicine. It's not your phone. It's fire. And the strange part isn't that humans learned to use it. It's that fire got to us first and quietly rebuilt us from the inside before we had any idea what it was doing. There was even a time when losing your fire could mean losing everything, and you couldn't just make a new one. Every other animal on Earth eats its food raw. You can't. Not really. Try to live on raw food alone, and your body burns more energy breaking it down than it gets back. A gorilla spends up to 8 hours a day just chewing. You spend about 1 because somewhere in our deep past, something started doing the chewing and the digesting for us before the food ever reached our mouths. That something was heat. And the moment our ancestors let fire pre-digest their food, a countdown started. One that would shrink our teeth, shorten our guts, and grow the most expensive organ in the known universe, the human brain. We know fire rebuilt us. What nobody can agree on is when it started, and the reason we can't find the answer is stranger than the answer itself. Ask anyone why fire mattered to early humans, and they'll say warmth, or safety, or scaring off predators in the dark. All true, and all beside the point. Here's the impossible situation our ancestors were actually in. The brain is a monster. It's a fraction of your body weight, but it eats up to 1/5 of everything you take in, every single day, awake or asleep, doing nothing. There are only 2 ways to feed something that greedy. You find far more food, or you find a way to squeeze far more out of the food you already have. Evolution found the second one. And the answer wasn't a bigger stomach. It was heat. Cooking is something we usually think of as culture, recipes, flavor. But strip all that away and cooking is really just one thing: digestion that happens outside your body. Heat breaks down tough fibers and proteins before you ever swallow them. It kills the bacteria that would otherwise cost you energy to fight. It turns food that would take hours to process into fuel your body can grab in minutes. The anthropologist Richard Wrangham gave this idea a name: the cooking hypothesis. The claim is bold. Cooking didn't just make food nicer, it made us. Cheap cooked calories freed up the energy that a huge brain demands, and the fossil record seems to nod along. As our ancestors' brains grew, their teeth shrank and their guts got shorter, exactly what you'd expect if the food was arriving pre-softened. So if cooking built the brain, the rest should be easy. Find the oldest campfire and you've found the moment we started becoming human. It should be simple. It's almost impossible, and the reason why is genuinely unsettling. Try to picture the evidence a campfire would leave behind after 1 million years. The ash blows away in the first storm. The wood rots. The smoke is long gone. What can survive is faint. Burned bits of bone, stone cracked by heat, a patch of sediment baked a different color. And here's the trap. A wildfire leaves almost exactly the same traces as a cooking fire. Lightning strikes, forests burn. The planet has been catching fire on its own for hundreds of millions of years, so every time someone finds ancient burning, they face the same brutal question: did a human make this, or did the sky? That's why the story of fire isn't a clean timeline. It's a string of suspects, and every one of them is easier to doubt than it is to prove. The oldest that anyone half believes sits in a cave in South Africa called Wonderwerk. Burned bone and ash sealed deep inside, roughly 1 million years old. Deep enough inside the cave that a passing wildfire is hard to explain. It's the best early candidate we have. It is also still argued over, constantly. because being near fire is not the same as being in charge of it. And the first evidence that nobody can really argue with, actual hearths, used over and over in the same spot, the unmistakable fingerprint of people who controlled their fire that shows up far, far later. In places like Qesem Cave, only around 400,000 years ago. Sit with that gap for a second, because it might mean something eerie. For a stretch of time that could run into the hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors may have used fire without knowing how to make it. Think about what that actually means. Your fire is not a tool you own. It's a fragile, living thing you have to keep alive. If it goes out, a rainstorm, a river crossing, one bad night, you can't just strike a spark and start again. You might have to wait for the next lightning strike, or walk for days to find another group and borrow a flame from them. For all that time, fire wasn't something we possessed. It was something we could permanently lose. Which raises the real question. Not when we first used fire, but the moment we finally stopped being at its mercy. Here's where this stops being a story about them and becomes a story about you. Open your mouth. That small jaw. Those crowded, half-useless wisdom teeth that so many people have pulled. They're the leftovers of a face that no longer needs to grind through raw food. Your gut is short for an animal your size. Your teeth are small. Your diet is dense with cooked calories. Every one of those is a body that assumes the food arrives cooked. And here's the part that should give you pause. You can't undo it. This isn't about whether raw food is healthy or not. That's a different conversation. It's evidence of how deeply we're wired. In one long-term study of people eating a strict raw diet, a significant share of the women stopped menstruating, not because they were starving. Many were eating plenty, but their bodies couldn't pull enough usable energy out of uncooked food to keep everything running. That's not a diet result. That's a species telling on itself. We didn't just learn to cook. We handed part of our own digestion over to fire so completely that we can never take it back. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being animals that use fire and became animals that cannot live without it. We are, in the most literal sense, obligate cooks. We like to tell the story of fire as a triumph, the clever ancestor, the struck spark, the moment we took control. But that story might be backwards. Fire didn't wait for us to be smart enough to use it. It made us smart enough. It shrank our jaws, freed up our energy, and grew the brain that's reading meaning into these words right now. We didn't tame fire. We're what fire made when it got hold of something that could keep it burning. And the oldest hearth, the real first one, is still out there somewhere, buried under 1,000,000 years of dirt, waiting for someone to prove the exact moment we stopped being animals that use fire and became animals that can't live without it.